All right, Shalom. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect tonight's message. Aman. Uh, Shalom Yachasrel, Kwam, Tedach Yachasrel, Tedach Achir at Zion. And I Kofi, headed at Servants of Christ, Mashalom Chi. Hello, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voices and speaking the unspoken. Appreciate love you. Thank you for joining me on this evening. Prayerfully, you guys can hear and see me all right. I'm not sure if you can, but prayerfully, you are able to hear and see me fine. Thankful and grateful to be in front of you all one more again. Spend some time with y'all. Tonight I will be brief, but just actually wanted to share some information with you. Also, if you get a chance, please, man, please, sir, especially if you're part of Patreon. If you're not, please feel free to join. But if you're part of Patreon, we had a couple things that have been out for you guys recently, including if you're part of hashtag SOC University. We got some stuff that we put up there for you. Also, prayerfully, you've been able to catch that and learn from that and grow from that. And hello, how's everybody doing? Can you guys hear me all right before we get started? While we're saying that, how you doing? This is Tia, Minister Stephen, Cultural Prospect, Cole, Sister Knight. Can everybody see and hear me all right? Signal wise, I'm a little iffy right now. It seems. Okay, YouTube is all right. Okay, TikTok seems like it might be an issue. All right, give me 1 second. Let's see if we can move them. I have a feeling if I move them to the signal you guys are on, it's going to be a blurry signal, but I apologize if this is probably already one anyways because of the lighting situation. And prayerfully, we can get this going where persons can come on in. We get ready to say our Bible pledge real quick. Can you guys see and hear me all right on TikTok now? Am I still okay on YouTube? Can you at least hear me? How you doing, Way of Purpose? How you doing, Darius? How you doing, Jose? You can? All right, well, we got that going finally. All righty. Can you guys still hear? Oh, yes, sir. Okay, cool. Thank you, sir. All right. How you doing, Minister Shante? How you doing, Sister Deborah? All right, let's go ahead and do our Bible pledge. This is my Bible. This is my sword, and this will I trust. For Yahshua is Lord. No other God, no sort of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible, and this is Yah's word. Acham Yahweh Aman. I don't know why I've been saying no other. We're going to get that together. But welcome, family. Thank you for being on today. Um, so today we are going to speak specifically on today we're gonna put it like this. I guess if we had a theme, we'd call it more information on the Gentiles. When persons ask who the Gentiles are, I think we do pretty decent work of describing it. We have some videos and stuff on it as well. But I learned a little something today, looking at some other stuff, studying some other things. I was actually looking into old movies and seeing how much truth there is in them. Like learning, for example, I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched persons explain about 300 and the differences, and I learned even some stuff that I didn't know was outright lied about in that movie. I was watching some stuff on Alexander the Great, that movie with Colin Farrell, and seeing some differences and stuff that were there. How you doing, Beck? And by the way, if you can, please, man, please, sir, if you're able to help out the family, let us know. Beck and Dwayne on their way to have another child later this year in like a couple months, is it even? So if we can make sure that if you would like to help, we would like to be able to, you can do it yourself, by the way. You don't have to give us anything, but you can reach out to them. You can reach out to them through us. You can ask us for the info and we'll give it to you. But we would like for you, if you can, to help out with some things that the family might have in need as they get ready to welcome their second child, our child into this universe. And see what Yahweh does and being a blessing. How you doing, Sister Keita? How you doing, Sister Sherry? Hopefully things are going well in your recovery, Sister Keita. How you doing, Sister Mignon? So today, though, I have more information on the Gentiles. So I was watching some stuff and learning some different things and sure enough, you learn some things about the Bible. For example, um, is that a Patreon thing? Well, I might go into more details about it, but for example, I learned a little bit more about turn the other cheek. For example, in those times. Now, that doesn't mean this was Israelite culture, so I'm still going to do some research. But I learned there's a possibility that turn the other cheek has to do with the fact that in Rome, um, being slapped, of course, is not the best of things. But if you were to slap somebody and you were considered to be greater than them or at a higher position, you were elite. You would actually backhand them, like be totally disrespectful, right? But if the person were to turn the other cheek, right, you actually have to, right, if they were to turn the other cheek, you can't really slap them like that. Or if somebody were to slap you, one of the things that the Romans did, so that's why I don't think it might be an Israelite thing, but one of the things apparently that they did is if somebody did something to you, it was like, hey, if we're gonna go, hit me correctly, and like they would turn the other cheek, meaning like, hey, you're gonna treat me like I'm on your level. If we're gonna fight, go ahead and hit me as being on the same level as you. So apparently the backhand was one thing. I got to look more into that, but that was kind of something interesting I'd never heard before. Um, I forget what movie I saw that in, but they explained that, and that was interesting. But anyways, I was just going through a lot of different things, a lot of different details, stuff like that, learning and growing as I'm always trying to. And next thing you know, how you doing, Sister Taya? And how you doing, Brother Thomas? Next thing that you know, I came across some interesting information on the nomen, right? Or even in the Greek, it'd be the nomos, but you would have in the Romans would call it the nomen. Nomos, if you recall, is the same as Shem or Sham or name, authority, even law, who you are, etc. So the nomos um, is what your name is, what your authority is, who you are lawfully, right? So the nomos, but that's in the Greek. In the Roman, right? In Roman times, that was your nomen. They were talking about it because I think the movie I was watching was Gladiator, right? How you doing, Brother Jermaine? Right? How you doing, Sister Sherry? And so as I was watching Gladiator, I was like looking at some stuff, and I said, "Whoa, like it's kind of interesting." Um, this Nomen piece because I looked it up some because just because you hear it doesn't mean you shouldn't look it up. And I hear a lot of conflicting things a lot of these things historically. Anyways, how you doing, Sister Joy? How you doing, Brother TJ? And so Holy Ghost says, "Be obedient." Look it up. So I'm obedient. Obedience is better than sacrifice. And I started to realize some interesting stuff. So, you know how they'll say stuff like there was no such thing as a last name until English persons. That's not true. The Romans would use three, sometimes four names. I cannot recall all of them, but basically you had like a prenomen, a nomen, a cognomen, and there's a other type of nomen, the fourth one. And the way that works is the prenomen is like considered at your first name. It's not necessarily equate to what we would call a first name, but just consider that your first name, right? What you gonna be called, right? On a friend, on a personal level, right? Or on a close, if somebody knows you, what they would call you without all the extra pomp and circumstance. Then they have the nomen. The nomen is your kin or your family, your lineage, right? So the nomen is kind of like what we do. Somebody might say, you know, Yehashivai bar at Yahava or Yehashivai bar at Yasav, right? The son of, right? I am, Kofi, or my son is Solomon. He could be Solomon, son of Kofi, or Yao, son of Kofi, depending on what language we're speaking, right? How you doing, babe? My wife is on the Honorable Amma. As always, check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Love you, babe. Thanks for being on. So they're talking about this. So you have the prenomen. So think of that as a first name. Nomen, which is not like a middle name and it's not a last name. It's actually saying this is your family name. And then you have a cognomen, right? Basically, think about of that as like what we might say is your last name. And then you have, I can't recall what the fourth one is called, but then you have something else, some other type of thing, something nomen. And matter of fact, give me a second, I'll look it up. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure I give, since we're going all the way here. Let's just go all the way. Okay. All right. All right. I thought it started with an A, but I was going to say it wrong. I was going to say it wrong. So I'm glad that I looked. So you have the first name, which basically I think is prenomen. You have the family name, not a middle name, but a family name, your kin, right? So whoever your kin are, whoever they come from, what they call themselves, that'd be your nomen, right? Then you have, after that, you have your cognomen, which is, if you want to consider that to be your last name, right? Right? I'm not sure nomenclature makes sense, right? You have your last name, cognomen, and then after that, you would have something called your agnomen. So if you have like a hyphenated last name, let's say, right? If you're Thomas Smith, if you're from the Sproul Jones family, if you're, something like that, then you would have the two names, right? Many cultures have something like that. So the Greeks would have 3 to 4 names, and that's where you get these long title names. And they were talking about what actually brought it up is the guy was saying in the movie Gladiator, when I can't remember what his name is, what is it, Maximus um, something Meridius or something like that, Decimus Meridius or something. They were saying that he literally didn't even say the names, like they didn't give him real. You could tell his name's not even real because they gave him like the name that should be the nomen is like actually they're trying to put like in the prenomen place, and the prenomen name's not even prenomen. But if you watch the movie, he actually is called another name. So they were like that other name should be his prenomen. Then the other 2 names that he's called should actually be like his cognomen and his agnomen. If you get what I'm saying, if I've been a little too confusing, so forgive me, that's the nerd in me. But basically, I'm saying all that to say I was watching and I was learning and I was doing some research. How you doing, Brother Omar? And as I kept doing some research, something interesting about the nomen popped up. How you doing, Sister Monica? Because the nomen for many elites, right, was considered to also not just be known as a nomen, which would be the family, and they wouldn't just use a nomen as a term to say that's your family, but they would also use the term gens. And when that hit me, it hit me like a ton of bricks. In other words, many gens, many nomens, right? Many persons who had names, especially the elite, right? They considered not only their nomen to be what you would call their family, but they considered whatever their family lineage to be something that tied them to the gens, right? So if you are a Gentile, it is because your nomen comes from a gens people. So all these persons that you'll hear, right? Not everybody carried this, but these persons that have these really long Roman names, that second name you're hearing is telling you which Gentilic family they come from. Like, I don't know if that's a big deal for anybody else. That was huge because that's an eye opener. That's something if you really want to dig deep. See, now next time somebody asks me a question, it's like start looking at the family names. But look, when you see these Roman names and they start extending, and if you see 4 names, second name. If you see 3 names, still second name. The second name is saying the family they're coming from. So if somebody's got really long names, that means that they're trying to tell you we're Gentile. Look at that name to show you why we deserve to be put in the high position that we're in. Now it gets a little weird, granted, because if we're going to do that, then that means those who later on come from other families who bogart their way in and start naming themselves that, they're doing that out of Gentilic behavior, but not necessarily because they are Gentiles. Does that make sense? I'm not sure about that, Sister Tay. I'd have to research and see. I'll have to ask somebody about that, to be honest. I'm not sure about that part. Because I mean, you could be as far as their names by the time if you're talking about their names, because by then, we're talking. Before then, we're talking like about, I mean, really 15 to 2000, 1,500 years to 2,000 years earlier, at least, when that started. So they could be doing it for the same reasons. They could have got it from them. There could be a mix of those persons because sometimes they are gens, but that's a whole nother story for another day. But right now, I'm just being honest. I don't know if I got the answer for you on that. Right. But when I saw that, I was like, man, let me share this because this is a little more information. This kind of opens a can of worms. You got to be diligent with this. You can't use this as, hey, anytime I see the names, like I said, you could have, for example, Vespasian, who is the person who actually starts the Colosseum or whatever, and is the person who basically was the beginning of the end for Israel. When later on the emperor Kaiser Titus would come behind him and make sure not a stone was left upon a stone, right? But Vespasian or Titus is a Greek, by the way. Or well, actually, no, I take that back. Titus is a Greek name. In the Bible, Titus is Greek, even though Titus is not the one who writes the book of Titus, but Titus is a Greek. Excuse me. Um, but these are things that we have to recognize and realize, right? So when you're hearing this term Gentile, this is why we have to be careful when persons just say, oh, Gentile just means non-believer. Sure, those Gentiles were anti-Christ. Do not get it twisted, though. Just because those Gentiles that is talking about being against the word were anti-Christ, it's not saying everybody is a Gentile. So you have to, when it's telling you about Gentile behavior, Gentile behavior in your Bible, you have to know what's going on in a romantic value system. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense? Before I don't really have too much more to go, but just making sure, because I'm not sure if I'm doing a great work as as far as painting the picture of what I'm saying, but I'm just trying to make sure like everybody's kind of up to speed. Like, so when you hear these things and everybody's trying to get these titles, like for example, if you look at in Rome, you with me? Okay, cool. Like if you look in Rome, a slave is not necessarily going to have all those names, whether they are a slave from Rome, which Rome is bigger than just Rome, but you know what I'm saying, from the city of Rome, um, or if they're part of Europa, anything that belongs to Rome. Pick is painted. Okay. Um, how you doing, Sister Shima? Right. A slave is not going to have that. So your gladiators, right? Your gladiators are slaves, which seems to be interesting because they get all this fame and all this stuff, and they can even eventually get their own freedom. Usually they have to fight about 20 to 30 fights or something. And normally they would have been granted freedom. But, even though only 8 to 10% of gladiators are usually going to die at gladiatorial games, 8 to 10% of a person's having to die, and you being on there making it through 30 of them bad boys is still not a great chance. But they, as famous as they were, and as many persons wanted to see them at the gymnasium, and as many persons that wanted to pay to have relations with them and whatever, but they were slaves, right? So you're not going to see them ever being that. So also when we talk about a Gentile, we also have to then recognize, praise Yah. See, when we talk about a Gentile, we also have to recognize that we're talking about a certain status as well. Not just anybody can be a gens and therefore be Gentilic. Does that make sense? Right? Not everybody is a Gentile. That's why I've said plenty of times before, when person just go Gentile, we treat like Gentile just mean white folk. Not all these families were what you would consider to be white, first of all. And secondly, not all these white folk out here are even in their class. It's classism going on as well. So we have to be careful when we talk about gens and Gentiles, right? In our mind, the Gentile is automatically, but see, Gentile, yeah. So you talk about Kaiser Nero, Kaiser Caligula, right? These are Gentiles, or Caesar, yeah, but these are Gentiles. You said like different names hold different teachings. To a certain degree, different. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and so in this regard, we're speaking more so like the different names. We're talking about the different classes. Remember, like, so all of your senators, praetors, um, eventually, sometimes every once in a while, if they needed dictators. Forgive me, I'm forgetting what the two were supposed to be at the top. You normally have two persons that are in charge, and they have to do campaigns and stuff, and they have to, switch power back and forth so that not one person had power. That was before Kaiser, came in there. Julius Caesar came in there, and then after him, once Augustus came in there, then you started just having one person be in charge until they split Rome into two. But technically, still, it was one person over here and one person over there. But all those positions, they were part of the same families. And even when they eventually would open it up later on, they still only let a certain class of family in. So you're dealing with, not just emperor, right? The emperor is the Kaiser, is the Caesar. right? So Kaiser Nero or Caesar Nero is your emperor, right? But before that, right, before Julius Caesar, you would have two positions. Recall, Rome started off with kings, and eventually they didn't want kings, but they allowed all these families to basically keep the money and stuff like that, anyways, right? That's what the Senate was. So the Senate is basically nothing more than a bunch of gens families who are taking over, right? And they don't allow anybody. It's kind of like when you hear that old saying, the good old boy club. You have a lot of good old boy club, this and that or whatever. Well, it was the same thing. Like that was the Jens family was like their good old boy club. And so only certain persons are getting in there. You got to be married in, et cetera. Same thing that really happens with Congress today. We kind of turn a blind eye to it and act like these persons are not related to one another. All these persons that are getting into Congress, just about, I can't, okay, all is me being a little facetious. However, most of these persons, many of them who are in Congress today, they're the same family, right? There's that thing that was done up through Obama, I believe, that was proving that every president except for one, who was Van Buren, and that was because at the time his family's still married in, but he's not considered to be within the 10th cousins, right? Every president has comes from King John, right? King John, every president has come out of his family lineage. All of them are 10th cousins, except for Martin Van Buren, who is the eighth president, the only president that English was not his first language. He's not the only president that spoke multiple languages, but he's the only president where English was not his first language. What was he? He was Deutsch, right? So he spoke Deutsch first, and then he spoke English. But he's still married in technically, and all of them are married in. Trump and the Clintons are married in. Like a lot of persons miss this. Obama's stepfather right is in control of a lot of stuff and is married in. There it's and even without that, Obama is still a 10th cousin. So these are all family members. When persons are like, oh, when Obama shows up uh, and Mrs. Obama is playing all nice with George Bush, that's so cute. They're family. you know so the same thing was happening back then. If you had senators, you could say, before you had a Kaiser, before you had Julius Kaiser or Julius Caesar, he wouldn't have been Julius back then, right? Because they had no letter J. But before you have this Julius Caesar come across, they were, you know there was no king, so all the Senate were the same family. Once you have the Caesars come in, that Caesar and his family are ruling, but don't get it twisted. Now you just have the Caesar is your dictator. Before, you only had a dictator, but that dictator could only be dictator for 6 months. If they didn't do what they were supposed to do within 6 months, they had to give it back. Julius Caesar, what made him dangerous to many of them was that Julius Caesar became so powerful that he never gave up his power. He literally had a huge throne set up in their Senate hall, right, for their meetings. And he would sit on there. He would put two persons in power like there used to be that would switch power for a whole year and then get voted in somebody else the next year. But he would sit in between them and he would make all the decisions. They'd have to go through him anyways. So that's why they offed him, not because of this whole, oh yeah, we're gonna have a king and blah blah, we don't want a king, or he's trying to take over. No, they offed him because he wasn't letting the families continue to just move through. Right. That's another thing too. When you talk about these families, see, when you open this door, it starts opening up. When you get this mindset and you get the realization about this gens and this nomen, then you'll discover that, wait a minute, like, oh, okay, so if the gens and the nomen are the same, right? And that's how they roll. Well, look at the stuff now. See, a lot of us just go, oh, everything's controlled by one family or five families, right? If so, let's say there's the five families. There's actually more nowadays than there used to be. And really, how this works as far as power is concerned, a lot of families don't want you to know who has the power. So there's many families out there that you'll never know their names, right? The Rockefellers didn't mind because you were going to do anything. So the way that they rolled, they would put, literally, there's been vice presidents who've been Rockefellers. They didn't care if you knew. Go do some research. I'm not even joking. I'm not even saying they had different last names either. They're literally Rockefeller vice presidents, right? And cats don't even think about it. Don't think twice. Didn't even know about it. But like, you have Rockefellers, but Rockefellers are going to make sure that, hey, if it's done right, you got to make sure that the power shifts. You got to make sure it's currency, right? Even in the evil spirit world or whatever, they're not the ones in charge. They worship the devil. the ones that do. I'm not saying all of them do, but let's be honest, right? There's some demonic stuff going on. At least so is allegedly said. So, right? So basically, and we have all the stuff that's going on, they switch power out. So you can't just only you got it. You'll miss it. You're just looking at just one group. Yes, that one group will remain powerful, but they might not be the most, the most powerful or the person that's in a certain position. They comprehend chain of command. They can comprehend currency and flow. They might allow somebody to buy something else so that later on they can buy some. They can have money to get something greater. But they comprehend it waves and it's ebbs and flows. Right? We forget that there's chain of command and there's ebbs and flows. You said, Rothschild and NYC, but referred to themselves as rich. There you go. How you doing, Gwendolyn? How you doing, Erna? Yeah, it's definitely more than five, especially nowadays, right? It's like when we say the Rockefellers are the ones who did all the HBCUs, and the Rockefellers are the ones that are in charge of all the medical stuff. That was the case, but there's a lot of medical facilities and persons that found ways in now. So there's a lot of organizations owned by a lot of different families. It's not just the Rockefellers. They might be keeping up the same stuff, but stuff comes in ebbs and flows. The family that's the most powerful today, just like the statue, gold, silver, bronze, iron mixed with clay, right? The Babylonians were it for a long time. But don't get it twisted, the Medes and the Persians came through. But when Darius couldn't handle Alexander the Great, that four-headed leopard came through and did what they did. But don't get it twisted, when they broke up into four different parts or whatever, that eventually even Alexandria in former Kemet in Egypt had to go ahead and bow down and start paying tribute to Rome and the iron. And that iron eventually had to split into two and had to start making and started bowing down to what you call the Roman Catholic Church. And even the Roman Catholic Church, according to Revelation, which we know happened in 1798, the head of one was taken off. The Pope was done. Somehow, some way they've come back, but now they've taken a different form. This is why when you listen to music and stuff, see, when you learn one and you start seeing how the devil operates and you start seeing what we're warned about and the class of stuff, you'll start looking for things differently. See, because the same way that head was cut off, and persons are like, well, the Pope, and I'm against the Pope, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Well, when you go to that stadium and you listen to Hillsong, and Hillsong has, and they're not the only ones. I'm just pointing out Hillsong because honestly, I can remember Hillsong's name. I can't remember everybody else's name. There's more than just Hillsong, right? And I'm not saying you can't listen to Hillsong worship. I'm just trying to tell you how to compartmentalize and see what's going on. See, because Hillsong, believe it or not, is not just a Christian organization. Did you know that? Is anybody aware? Are you aware, by the way? Not everybody listens to everything. Is everybody aware of what I say? Like when I'm talking about Hillsong, Hillsong is a lot of persons only pay attention to the music, but Hillsong is a religious organization that has a pastor and everything, right? Right? Is everybody? I just want to make sure if you don't know who I'm talking about, look up Hillsong music. A lot of your favorite praise and worship music is Hillsong music, right? You said right. They have a whole documentary. I didn't even know about the documentary. Sis. Or they probably have to have some by now. I mean, greatness. They're huge. But if you look at Hillsong and other organizations, once again, I just happen to know Hillsong's name because as a musician for a long time, I had to learn Hillsong songs. So I just happen to know their name, right? But if you look them up, how you doing, Brother Rodney? If you look them up, you'll discover that with Hillsong is interesting because when Hillsong speaks, I'm sorry, when Hillsong does, if you do some research, Hillsong has a pastor, pastor has a wife. You'll think of Hillsong as maybe being an autonomous Christian organization or what you call non-denominational, etc. Problem though, right? Right? Yeah. And I'm not saying you can't listen to Hillsong, by the way. I'm just trying to tell you how to compartmentalize, right? Because if you listen to Hillsong and you look up Hillsong, you'll think, oh, okay, just big organization, even maybe a little hint of Christian nationalism, but it is what it is. Like they're just out there worshiping, they're innocent in it, they're praising the Most High, no problem with it, right? Okay, cool. And by the way, I'm not even trying to say change, I'm not trying to change your mind on that. Just hear what I'm about to say on top of that. You ready? So, Hillsong is, in fact, I mean, I guess Hillsong belongs to the Roman Catholic Church. So if you were a Hillsong member, you are a Roman Catholic Church member. This is not taught or said out loud. It's not flashed in books or anything that they give out, but they are, in fact, Roman Catholic. So those of you who think you're not Roman Catholic, who belong to Hillsong, I know there's probably very few, if anybody, who's going to listen to even to the recordings of these probably falls in line with this. But if you are part of Hillsong, you are under Roman Catholic Church jurisdiction. Right? And so what I'm trying to tell you is when that head went down and you talk about the Pope, everybody's like, oh, I see the Pope, I see blah, blah. If you don't recognize that they done expanded, they're under new names now. And Hillsong is not the only one. I'm going to say that again. And I'm not telling you can't listen to a Hillsong song, because y'all knows if we're saying we can't listen to anything except persons that 100% agree with us, even some of your favorite artists that are in these camps, so to speak, I promise you can't listen to some of them either. Right? I know we're in an age where we got to compartmentalize, and we talked about we might even have to try and take the onus on ourselves and figure out how we can start getting some of these songs, at least having it to where we can hear different names and blah, blah. Then that's actually something we should consider down the road, right? But what I'm just trying to say right now, I'm just trying to give you a mindset to realize that they've already branched out, okay? Like they've already branched out. The head that was decapitated that we thought was gone has already branched out, right? The schools are still there. The basilicas are still there, right? The different Marys around the world are still there, right? So just be aware of it. Anyways, though, I kind of went around the corner on that one. But long story short, I just want to give some more information. When you recognize that gens nomen connection, right? Once again, remember there's prenomen, there's nomen, there's cognomen, and then there's agnomen. So when you get that connection and you recognize, then you realize that nomen is not just name or close to, nomos, name, authority, but also nomen is talking about gens. That means when you see these long titles, you'll go, oh, that's gens. So now if I look up, Caligula and his full name, and I recognize his gens title, his gens name, what that family basically was considered to be within the gens thought process, I can start to realize like who carries the spirit of Caligula, right? Who carries the spirit of Nero, right? Never Caesar, or Nero Kaiser, or Ciro Caesar. Caesar Nero, excuse me. Tongue twister for me for some reason. Right? Amen, Sister Monica. Thank you. Right? So you got to recognize that this stuff is there, is right there. It's in plain sight, but it's not, but it ain't. I know this ain't great English, but it is what it is. It is in plain sight, right? But it ain't plain. Right, just like I've talked about before, you go down to your big cities and stuff, and you look around and stuff that's right in your face that's been Masonic whole time, gargoyles and stuff on there, and things like that. By the way, quick thing, I didn't know. Apparently, you know what gargoyle actually means? A gargoyle is just even though obviously they have demonic inference and everything, but a gargoyle literally is just a way of them saying like that a lot of them have their mouths up, or because of them having mouths and because of rain and stuff, like rain and water can come out their mouths sometimes might even be fountains and stuff like that too, but rain and water and stuff comes out of their mouths. And so since it came out of their mouths and the mouths were up or whatever, it's like the water's in their mouth, it's like they gargle. That's their word. That's their word for gargle. So these things that are up there, they're gargle. That messed me up. For people people who like etymology, I just learned that like last month. I was like, what? I'd never heard that before. But once again, I don't speak the language fluent. Right. But anyways, you see those things that are the water comes in and they are looking up to the heavens, right? When they're looking up to the heavens and some of that stuff, some of them are obviously looking down and they're mean and stuff. But when you see them on there, a lot of those buildings, start doing some research on some of those buildings. A lot of those buildings, that's not a plain building, right? Like once your eyes are open, you'll see it. Once again, their heads are facing up. They're looking up to something, right? And it ain't the Most High. But it literally means it's gargoyle. They gargle, like because water. So these spirits that are alive, that are looking up, they end up gargling. That's what they. So what you do with the water and stuff when you gargle, that's what they're saying. That's what a gargoyle is. I don't know how many persons grew up with. Was this Disney or what? Whatever it was, Saturday morning cartoons, right? When they did Saturday morning cartoons, and you had gargoyles. Watch that all the time. This and that. Never one stop. Anything about that? But that's what their name means. They had that sold into me, boy. I used to watch that all the time. I forget my man's name. I don't forgot their names now. The one, but the dude that was calm, it was strong, and everything was the leader. That was my boy when I was growing up. I done came a long way. Used to love the cartoon. Yeah, used to love the cartoon, boy. Then yeah, it was demonic, and Mama wasn't having it. I had to sneak. I had to make sure Mama didn't see me watching it. She wouldn't get up on early on Saturdays anyway. I got to go out there. Actually, did I? I don't know. Anyway, now I'm getting into some other stuff. But anyways, when you see them buildings, right? Look at that gargoyle, and you'll see that's what they're saying is that they usually face up, or something about them has stuff, or even if you see like one of those gargoyles in a fountain when the water's coming out or whatever, they're talking about they gargle. That's all they're saying, right? They're saying they look up. So that was interesting to me. But anyways, when you start seeing the stuff and you start making these connections, you'll start having connections that just come out of nowhere. You remember that show too, Sister Beck? Yeah, right. So, anyways, hopefully you got something out of today. I feel like it's an aha moment when you catch that. Like I said, I was literally just watching and studying some stuff and listening to persons who were experts and going through and trying to check back and forth what they were talking about. And when that hit me, I said, "Wow, I need to share that." I was actually just going to put it in private, and some of the stuff I talked about, like I said tonight, we'll talk about on Patreon. I've been back on track with Patreon again since I got sick and everything, um, but yeah, everything's been going well. So I'm gonna leave that where it is. I appreciate love you all. Appreciate you. Pray for us. We'll pray for you. I am for those that are asking. Um, I whatever was there, it seems like not only is it healed, but the inside, which is what I was the most scared about. If you recall, I told you is that pretty much I've been healed as far as the pain had pretty much subsided. I mean, I still got a little bit that pops up, but I'm doing all right with that. But for those who are interested, I won't be too grody because it's pretty grotesque, some of the stuff that's actually taking place. Um, but it's been healing, so it's not grotesque. I'm thankful, I'm grateful for it, but I don't want to gross anybody out. But long story short, I can feel a little bit of stuff in there, but it seems like it's just empty space. It seems like swelling is going down and stuff is reattaching. Um, it was actually pretty bad. So I'm thankful and grateful. I'm kind of like literally some of the parts of my body. I keep reaching here because it's the only part that really bothers me. I think about it anymore. But some parts of my body literally, well, I won't be grotesque. But just long story short, just know I'm doing better, and I appreciate love you. I appreciate your prayers, and we're thankful and grateful to each and every one of you. Thank you for everybody who's been on with us since Thursday Rise in Prayer. We shall be back in front of you tomorrow, prayerfully at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. Had some signal issues, but seems like everything is all right. And so we're hoping that everything is doing well. Amen. Thank you, Sister Taya. Yeah, I'm thankful for her too. So we shall see you guys tomorrow. Those who missed the meeting on Tuesday, we'll see you guys tomorrow. So everybody check your emails and everything. We should have our meeting for Feast of Tabernacles on Saturday. Yeah, and we should be back on track. Men's meeting this Saturday as well. And I'll double check for you guys. I'm not 100% sure about Sunday for When Life Happens. I'm not sure where we are on those Sundays, but double check for that in your Google Calendar invites as well. So we honor you. We honor your presence. Thank you so much. Tada. Continue to do great things. Let us continue to keep Minister Tamara. You're one of the persons I just realized. Remember, I was saying I can't recall. I'm forgetting somebody to pray for this rising. Minister Tamara, you were somebody we were supposed to pray for on Thursday rising prayer. So I'm just going to say this real quick and then we'll dismiss. Yahweh, please bless Minister Tamara. Please bless Brother Duran. Bless the family as they're trying to go through transition. Thank you for the fact that you're helping to transition, not just only with home, but prayerfully to a place where she can begin to focus more and more on what it is you have for her in full-time service of you. We thank you that she has the ability to stomach what for many could not be stomach, but also she has the ability to make the righteous decisions led by really you and Holy Ghost. So be with her, be with Duran, and we thank you so much. Sorry about that, Minister Tamara. I was sitting there in prayer. I was like, dang, I was like, there's somebody I'm forgetting, blah, blah, but but forgive me for that. All right. So we should have done that Thursday rise in prayer, but we did it. Okay. Amen. So I'll see you guys. And also as a reminder, or if you can just recall, keeping your memory banks, Minister Anais is fine. She wasn't on today because she's taking sabbatical. Matter of fact, Minister Samaya Larray, pray for her and her family. She has to take a necessary sabbatical for a member in the family going through surgery, and they need somebody to watch over the children. Has spinal damage that was real bad in that car accident. Some of you might know about it through prayer and stuff. So she will be taking care of business through the 27th. So keep her in prayer. And yeah, I think those are main ones. Of course, there's so many that we could pray for, stuff like that. But we love you guys. We honor you. We thank you. We hope that you guys are doing well. And we shall talk to you guys again very soon. If you don't mind, keep Brother Vincent in prayer. I will not say what it is. He didn't even ask me to lift him up in prayer. But I did not realize he was going through some things. Just keep him and his family in prayer. We believe they will be all right, but keep him and his family in prayer. And much love and respect to each and every one of you. Keep Sister Deborah in prayer as well, in decision making and transitional moments as well. So love you all to life. Thank you so much. We honor you, and we hope that you guys continue to do well. I salute thee and thine family. Really, you are my family, but you get what I'm saying. Watching too many of these movies today, these Greco-Roman stuff, the Ilias, Troy, reading books, all this stuff. I've been on it. Anyways, I love y'all. And, you guys take care and continue to do great things. We give our honor and praise to Yahweh. We give our praise and honor to each and every one of you. We give honor and praise, of course, to my wife, to Yahweh for my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. And family, please remember as always, that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Take care, family. Shalom. Peace. Be safe out there for those who are traveling, by the way. Make it home safe. Pull over to the side of the road if you have to. Love y'all.